Welcome to the second section of this part of the tutorial. As we finished modeling our water lilies, I just added a subsurf modifier in each of these and tweaked them a little bit so they look a little bit more detailed and realistic. Nothing really fancy. After doing that, we're gonna tackle the grass modeling, sorry. And I've choose to go with a this kind of grass that grows near swamps, etc. So what I like to do is separate all of my objects in different Blender files. As it's more convenient if I want to reuse them in other projects, or I want to share them with people. It's always I think, in my opinion, a good practice. So if you're creating a bunch of assets for your scene, prefer make them in separate files, then append them, and then if you want to share your finished model or so, it's gonna be easier. So now I'm gonna create a new scene and delete everything and switch to perspective mode, start again the screencast keys, and here we go. So I'm gonna add a sphere, UV sphere, take down the sub D to 12 and 8 maybe, something like this. Tab into edit mode and bring this vertices down, something like that. I'm not modeling at a real scale as it doesn't matter for now. So smooth everything. So we have this basic shape and select everything, Alt S, so we can make it thinner. So we have here the basic shape, and next we're gonna move on to make the stem part. So you can actually tab into edit mode, take this part here, Shift D to duplicate it, and P to separate the selection. So we're gonna use this as our stem source, flatten it by making S, Z and 0, and next extrude it along the Z axis. And it's pretty much, it's really a really tall stem, so I think that's fine. Select everything, Alt S again, and make it a little bit thinner, like so. And what we're gonna do also is select the upper faces and delete them, or the cap faces, if I could say, and delete them. Okay, faces, here it is. And we've got pretty much our plant here, which is really ready. What I'm gonna do is combine the two by selecting the two objects and Control J. Again, select this object and try to make it a little bit thicker now. Yeah, something like so. And now I'm gonna UV unwrap it. So later on we will not have some issues when texturing and shading it. So select an edge, Control E, mark seam, select all your object by making Control L, then U unwrap. Okay, and we're gonna do the same for our part here. So I'm gonna isolate it with the Shift H, zoom on it, and the main problem of this kind of shapes is at the poles here. We're gonna have some stretching when you've been wrapping. So we have a it's really not complicated, but tricky to make them really good. So, and as I said, these are little things there. It's not a close-up on this plant here. So we are not going to deal with this kind of stretching at the poles. So what I'm gonna do now is actually take all of the edge here, like so, and mark. So I'm gonna just select the right one and mark it as seam. And next, if you unwrap it at this stage, just to show you, if you unwrap it at this stage, you can see that it's too much distorted. And what I like to do is open it a little bit at the top. So what I usually do is make something like this. And I just clear this seam, mark seam, something like this. And then go down and do exactly the same thing. I'm gonna clear this seam and then do something. And oops, mark seam. And actually, if I select the face and do Control L, I have this only this part that is selected, and then U unwrap, and as you can see, it's a little bit less stretched. Okay, we have like 5 types or variations of this object here. I'm gonna actually think move the pivot point here, which is this one at the base, as with the particle system it's gonna work better. So this is what I'm gonna do for everything. The particle system uses the pivot point actually to. So now we're gonna move on to modeling the grass strands, and again it's the same principle and the same methodology. Is you start with the plane, a straight plane that tapes at the top, and next we're gonna make some variation for it, etc, etc. Okay, so now create a plane, rotate it on the x-axis 90 degrees. I'm gonna make it like a tiny thing like so. Again, move the pivot point to the bottom, put it there. So now I'm gonna move this a little bit up. As you can see in the image references, it's always in pretty much of the time they are pretty much the same size. The grass strands on the plant are pretty much the same size. And I'm gonna add subdivisions like so. Here we have it. We have our first strand, and what I'm gonna do is make like 3, 4, or 5 variations as we did before for this strand here, and it goes exactly the same as we just gonna pick these two, activate proportional editing, and start to make some rotations, something like this, then move it a little bit. And as you can see here, we have like a bended strand. Smooth it. I think it's a little bit too big for me. Place it at the bottom. See this one here. And we're gonna do exactly the same for every strand. So I'm doing things really simple here, nothing too fancy. You can actually go in the internet and take a look at real grass strands, how they behave, etc, etc, and then you can make some things that are more realistic, more plausible, if I could say. So here I'm going just for have some variations really quickly and give you the main guidelines on how you can achieve this kind of results. Okay, another 1 or 2 so the tutorial doesn't become too much long.